Hey guys, my name is Ryan, and welcome to Overwatch Central. There are hundreds of guides on how to get better at Overwatch on YouTube right now. However, when it comes to people, none are as straightforward, concise, and to the point as Skyline, who is well known for being one of the more educational influencers in the Overwatch market. He's been gone a while, he's come back, so I figured now was a good time to sit down with him to get basically the no BS guide to improving at Overwatch. No cheap tricks, no snake oil, just straightforward facts from a top 500 player in previous seasons, who has also become very good at basically any game that he plays. You can check out all of Skyline's details in the description below, but let's get started. It's been a while since you've been involved with anything Overwatch Skyline, so for those that don't know who you are, why should they listen to you when it comes to improving at Overwatch? Or any game, really.
Yeah, I haven't been around for a little while, but around about a year and a half to 2 years ago, back when Overwatch was still a really fresh game and stuff, I had hit top 500 for multiple seasons in a row, top 200 for a couple seasons, and I just started making some VOD reviews and some advice videos that really caught on in the community, and then I did some professional coaching for some teams before Overwatch League, and then I just made a whole series and guide about how to get better at Overwatch and how to climb and have a good mentality. And I guess it really helped people, because I got so many people coming and saying, hey, I was like silver, I was gold, and now I'm in diamond or masters, and yeah, so I was a former great YouTuber. I went inactive for a while to pursue esports and a career there, but now I do general gaming stuff. But yeah, I mean, Overwatch is still it was like the OG game. Overwatch was the first game that I really came out and did all this crazy stuff in.
But what's really worth adding is that you've got involved in other games like PUBG, and you've recently sort of been playing stuff like Magic the Gathering. You've got pretty high in the sort of SR ranks on those games too, right?
Yeah, so that's actually, I'm obviously an avid gamer, as probably everyone watching this is, but my thing, like the thing that I enjoy in a game, is getting to the top. So I will pick up a game, and my goal is to get to the top of the leaderboard as fast as possible, and then once I do that, usually I'll just drop the game and move on to the next one. So for example, I did that in League of Legends, where I was like, hey, I've never played this game before, it's really popular, let's see. So I got to diamond in League of Legends in like a month and a half. I call them projects, where I just like grind a game for a little while. But I played Magic the Gathering, which I've never played before. I used to play a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh, but I played Magic the Gathering, and my goal was to hit top 500 Mythic within one season, and I accomplished that. Just barely.
I guess when it comes to Overwatch, then we'll start with the elephant in the room for a lot of people. How do you improve without caring so much about your SR? How do you sort of get out of that mindset that rank matters? Because it's very difficult for a lot of people to let go.
Yeah, so that's all about mindset, because no matter what, it's almost impossible to have a mindset. It's almost impossible to not get frustrated. If your goal is to gain skill rating and you lose like 3 or 4 games in a row, I mean, realistically, how many hours of your life is that, right? Because you had to spend all that time losing the games, and now you need to spend all that time winning the games back, and now you're just neutral. So no matter what, if you're just a rational person, you're always going to be frustrated if you look at it that way. Generally, how I approach climbing, and even I get frustrated too when that's my goal, but the secret is it's usually not my goal. It's only for a very small fraction of time. People are going to be trying the hardest in ranked, where they have the ranked score that matters, but that doesn't mean that it needs to matter to you all the time. Overwatch goes in seasons, and you should really use that. Most games nowadays go in seasons, and you should really use that to your advantage. It can help you save a lot of frustration. If you take it like this, imagine that the first, I can't give an exact number, but we'll say 70%, 60%, first really big chunk of the season is just, you don't care about your skill rating. You're just trying to improve. Your skill rating can be whatever it is. Because remember, improving, like getting a higher number doesn't mean you're better. Getting better gives you a higher number, right? So if you just dedicate that first half of the season, 60%, 70%, whatever you choose, to getting better without caring about your skill rating, And then that last 20 to 30%, you do those as like you're in tournament mode, you're in game mode where you're climbing with all that improvement you've made before. It really helps compartmentalize and save you a lot of stress, because then you're only crunching for a week or two, right? It's really easy to crunch for a week or two as opposed to trying to crunch for the entire season. It doesn't work to try to crunch for the entire season. That's the approach I take. I use the seasons that the developers give me. I parse it out into these are my improvement times and these are my leaderboard grinding times, and that's how I do it.
I think it's also a good point where you don't know where a player may have started the season, or you don't know their lowest point if they've been grinding out in a certain season. You only know their highest rank and where they finished. So I guess with that point too, it kind of really establishes that as a really good idea, because nobody knows, say if you're in Diamond, you're practicing Ana, nobody will know if you dropped all the way down to Platinum or even Gold, so long as you eventually make it back up later on in the season, and 2 months is a good amount of time. You did a video recently where you kind of just went over how to get good at games. One of the tips that you gave was exactly what we went over, don't really look at guides to begin with, just kind of spend the first 50% of a season working out what's good for you and like what mistakes that you tend to make, and then spending the latter end of a season or a stage or whatever being able to really nail down finesse, I suppose the word would be. What was the other tip that you had in that video? Because again, it really does apply to what Overwatch is.
Yeah, so it's very important to have a balance. From what you said, you have to do your own experimentation, because no matter what, you're going to be able to get to a certain point just copying the meta. First of all, you're never going to be able to improve as a player by yourself, but it's also important to take time to divide your learning up into 2 different groups. You have your very specific learning, where like, let's say you want to play Symmetra, and you want to learn tips for where you want to place your turrets. There's lots of guides on Reddit and on YouTube about, on Eichenwald, here's where you place your turrets on point 1. Here's like a bunch of different cute spots you can place your turrets. That's something very specific you can learn that will definitely improve your game in a real measurable way.
Like Mercy, Super Jump, and Quick Scope and Azana is like really quick.
Absolutely. But then there are the things that you can learn that won't measurably improve your skill, and maybe you don't even measurably learn anything from it either. That's something like watching one of those really long, like 1 hour crazy analysis videos of an Overwatch League match or something, where they go through each individual play and they say, Houston Outlaws, they should have done this or they could have done this, and they just talk about the Overwatch League game. It's not going to apply to your game, because your games don't look like Overwatch League games, and a lot of the strategies in Overwatch League aren't suitable for matchmaking games. And but you'll be learning just general thoughts and just general concepts about the game, like, that's actually a good point, that because the Mercy was there, the Winston wasn't able to do this thing. It's never going to almost never apply specifically to your game, but it'll give you a bank of knowledge and background information. And then you get to merge all that with your own personal experimentation that you went and did by yourself. And you'll have first of all, it'll be a truly unique playstyle, but it'll also be a good playstyle that's based on actual facts and knowledge and real examples.
Right, you mentioned the replay system there, and I agree that it's going to be a really solid tool of being able to improve and analyze not only your own play, but other people's. If you've got this tool and you're a player that wants to improve, how do you even use a tool like that to improve? Do you just watch your perspective again? Do you try and watch maybe the perspective of other players to see how you play in the eyes of somebody else? If you're trying to learn a specific style, what is the best way to use the replay system to your advantage? Because it's a really good tool, but I don't think anybody really knows how to effectively use it to improve.
You can definitely sink a lot of hours into the replays and just sort of float around and not get a lot out of it. You need to have a very specific goal in mind, which means a lot of times you need to specifically watch one person's perspective. And in general, if you're watching your own games, that will usually be your perspective. except for in the case of, let's say you saw someone on the other team perform extraordinarily well and you were like, oh my god, I want to play like him. You can watch their perspective too. If you're an Ana player and their Ana just annihilated you, like they won all their trades and they were out healing you the entire game and they're anti-nading your team, you can watch how they played. But like I said, you always need to really raise your focus in on something. That'll always give you the best benefit when you're watching a replay. So things like that can really help you with replays. Just make sure you focus on one particular element, and every time you open up the replay, you have a specific question in your mind. Like, how do I stop dying to the Genji? How do I use my flashbangs better? And then answer that question. And if you do that, you'll always just naturally focus on what you're supposed to focus on. Just make sure you have a good specific question in mind.
We've gone over some quite in-depth things. Most of this is kind of like the no bullshit guide to just improving at Overwatch in any game. Are there any other things that you haven't highlighted so far that you really wanted to bring up? Because you're the kind of person that's to tell it like it is. You're not going to pretend that there's some secret that people aren't necessarily doing that's stopping them from climbing rank or climbing out of their ELO. Like, so what other things do you have to say on improving like that?
No, it's unfortunate actually. I wish there was a secret. If there was a secret, then I would give that secret up tomorrow. Nope, today, right now actually, I would give it up right here on your channel. This video, I would give the secret, but there is no secret, unfortunately. It's like it's almost like, you know, the key to a good diet, right? There's tons of diets online. There's tons of different things you can follow, and a lot of them are based on some amount of truth, right? With, well, just humans. This isn't like, oh, there's people, right? Just the human brain has a difficult time if there's nothing to latch onto in terms of a specific breakpoint. Like, it's very easy to, if you do something and you see an immediate improvement, you're like, oh, I should do that again. That's how people are programmed, right? But if you do something and there's no immediate improvement, like if you improve your diet, nothing happens. And then a day passes and nothing happens. Then a week passes and nothing happens. And then 2 months pass, and then eventually sometime, you don't know when it happened, but suddenly you feel a lot better and you feel a lot healthier. The same thing is going to happen if you're trying to improve at Overwatch, right? You need to have an idea of what you want to look like in terms of your play. And a lot of times that can very easily be just aspiring to be like a better player. Like if you're a grandmaster player trying to get to top 500, you won't have as much direction. But especially if you're like a silver player or a gold player or a platinum player trying to get to masters or grandmasters, you can take a look at a player you look up to, a player that you see streaming all the time, and say, I want my play to look approximately like his. And then just make sure every day at the end of each session, replays are super helpful to do this now also, because you don't need to do it in real time during the game. Just make sure, just go back, focus on one thing and say, hey, am I getting closer? You know, that player, that amazing Overwatch League player, that Zarya player, her bubbles are amazing and always on point. Are my bubbles like that? And you can analyze it after the day. As long as you have a specific goal that you have to reach towards, and I'm not talking about a skill rating goal. I'm talking about how you I'm talking about a skill goal. As long as you have a specific goal in terms of what you want your play to look like, and you make sure every single day you're trying to make your play look like that more and more and more and more, you will eventually hit it. And then if you hit it, the skill rating will follow, and you won't know, right? You won't know. One day will happen. 2 weeks, nothing will happen. 3 weeks, nothing will happen. A month, 2 months in, you'll look up one day and you'll be like, dang, I'm pretty good at Overwatch. I don't know how that happened.
There's always going to be that confusion about who to play and what to play. And I don't even mean in a necessary way of, you know, McCree is very meta now. Let's play more of him. There's a lot of people that want to play main tank or off tank or main support or flex support or projectile. You know, like there's all of these subsections that players want to fall into. How do you balance learning multiple heroes? Or would you recommend just almost one trick in a hero first and then practicing, you know, say to begin with, one trick in Ana to a certain level and then going, okay, I'm content with that. Let's move on to Zenyatta. Sort of what is your take on learning multiple heroes, especially in situations where you can't play what you want to play?
So there's obviously a lot of community hatred towards the quote-unquote one tricks. And there's a bunch of different ways you can define the word, right? Like when you were talking about one-tricking right now, you were talking about just grinding a hero really hard to learn it really fast. And that's how you learn anything. I mean, if you think about it, if you sit down to study for school, right, you probably have 5 or 6 subjects or whatever you have, or 6 classes if you go to university or whatever, or high school. You don't sit down and say, okay, I'm going to study some calculus. I'm going to do one calculus problem, and then I'm going to, read a little bit of my book for literature, and then, let me do some chemistry equations, and back to calculus. You don't do that, right? You sit down for a full chunk of time and practice math, and then you sit down for a full chunk of time and practice science. So, that's sort of one of my keys to improving quickly at things is I take one element and I just grind it really hard. For example, when I first started playing Overwatch, my aim was really, really bad, and I knew that it was going to be a limiting factor. Like, my decision making was probably not going to be a limiting factor. It was going to be my aim because I hadn't played a lot of FPS games. So I just grinded Widowmaker. I was a support player, and I just grinded Widowmaker before Season 1 for a month just so I could, and McCree, just so I could get my aim to be really, really good. Ideally, you have multiple heroes who you learn, right? But you always want to learn one at a time. And unfortunately, sometimes it won't be the exact perfect moment to play that hero. But if you can fit in as much of the hero as possible, then you'll learn so much faster than trying to split up and working for your team. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people, and this is a big point, I'm going to segue a bit here. A lot of people are very worried about making their team happy and performing for their team. And here's the deal, right? The more you focus on yourself, the better you'll be for your team. Maybe not for this game, right? Maybe not for next game, but if you get better, then in the future, all of your teams you have will be better.
Finally, we've gone over quite a lot of stuff here. Are there any other final things that you wanted to add in this video for those really seeking to improve?
Yeah, I think that the thing to remember after all of this, especially when you are going around, you're watching all these videos and guides and such, and all of them are about improving, getting better, getting higher skill rating. Yes, that's what this is for, and that's what we're here for, and that's what we're here to talk about. But always remember that a lot of it's about you, right? Like, improving feels really good, and that's why a lot of people try to improve. Getting a high number feels really good, and that's why people try to get a high number. But just remember that, just remember to have fun. Just set your goal to be one that you want to hit, and try to hit it, and then use videos like this to guide you.
And almost remind you, I suppose, of why and what you're supposed to be focusing on. Finally, where can people see more of yourself? You are slowly coming back to doing YouTube again and potentially streaming, so where can people see more of you if they want to get good at
any game, anything? If you just want to be amazing, it's Skyline OW. I'll never take out the people ask me, by the way, they're like, so you're gonna take out the OW now that you're not specifically Overwatch? And I'm like, no, why would I do that? Skyline OW, right here on YouTube, the best platform on the internet. And I might stream pretty soon. That's also Twitch, Skyline OW, but it's mostly on YouTube that you'll find me.
And that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching. Definitely check out all of Skyline's details below in the description. If you want to check out the playlist of all of our other videos with pros, streamers that all have some really good opinions on the game, you can find it on screen now. Thanks again for watching. Take care, and I'll see you then.